Posy Kim. Kia ora koutou, no mai, and welcome to this workshop that's being held in public today. And just to make sure that we've got the parameters of what we're here to talk about covered off at the front end of the meeting, we're not going to be making decisions about the name of a hall today. We're not going to be taking suggestions for the name of the hall. The parameters of what we're here to do today is to talk about how we're going to consult with our community. We have a really short time frame for consultation. It's going to be a tight turnaround to go into consultation in March and to have things back for meetings in April so that those decisions can be made in April. And in order to make the best of this, to make it the most impactful that we can, this is a really important workshop to ensure that we're capturing all the groups of people in our community who would like to have a say in this, in the Cromwell community and the wider Otago community. It's great to see that we've got some councillors here, and I welcome you to Cromwell. Squishy round our table, but it's really great to have you here joining us today for these conversations, and great to have people in the public gallery. Welcome to those to join us today. So come.
Thank you for having me. My name is Paula Penno. I work in community and engagement at the council, and we will know Jen, who's been obviously running the whole project up until now, and also Deborah being Bruce and community communications and engagement. And we're here today to help you as a board and as a council to tell us how you like this engagement to run. We've got some PowerPoint presentations. I just want to like some questions, prompts, suggestions. I'm just going to run through with the board, and we'd love your feedback and your guidance on how we approach today. So the first slide I have is there's some key questions that I'd love us to keep in our minds throughout this workshop. We really want to be sure we understand what it is that you want to achieve through this engagement process, what information you need to help you make the decisions on the name, and what good would look like at the end of this process. And when I talk about what you want to achieve for the engagement process, I'm thinking of things like what information you want to share, what do you want to steer on the name, do you want to act the name, like those sort of things. So if you can tell us today, like what would a good engagement process look like? We've got a limited amount of time, we know that, and it's differentials, but there's also a good opportunity to give us some ideas for everyone. From my perspective, that I lead in, I see that there's a two-pronged opportunity with this naming process. One is to inform our community about what's actually in that facility down by the lake, what rooms are there, and what opportunities are there, and what could be in that space. And then there's also the pragmatic side of getting some suggestions around the name, and how do we do that in a really succinct way that gives you enough of this there so that you can make a decision on that name. So I guess we're working this sort of on two fronts. Firstly, education piece, or you want to get involved. Is there anything else that you want to achieve through this process? Anything I'm missing? Okay, so the next slide again, if we were to talk about education opportunities. So this is just a start of the 10 things that I thought that we might want to include in the messaging that we're putting out. If it's going to frontline this naming process. We know that the actual name process is a small part of the whole process. And we want people to come when they start talking about the name that they've got good background and good understanding of what's going on. So these are some suggestions that we just thought, what's been happening with this bill so far, the layout of this building. It is not like the board that was. There's all these other rooms, venues, activities that could be there. And allowing that ability to determine what would happen there in the future. There's also the marketing potential of this facility. How do we market it? What could this be used for? And who would be the people that would be interested in it? Is it Cromwell based? Is it central Tokyo based? Is it regional? Is it national? Like getting those to the cost. The other thing is around the visuals. We're talking about a whole lot of things that people have to imagine. So in this engagement piece, what could we use to wrap around that to help people really get a clear picture of what this could be, given it's not finished yet, but we've got some other days that we could use. The other thing I wanted to ask the board today is around the rooms within the facility. So we're talking about the name of the facility. There's also rooms within. So I'd love to get feedback from you today and whether this is something you want to approach during this process or whether you want to just give information out about what the due is for that or whether you're going to start with it. Is there anything else that you think we could be including in an education piece that's front loading what this planning process is about?
I just think one of the key things that I would like to see is getting as many people from our community the opportunity to go through this hall. See everything in its full capacity, and then obviously, if we're canvassing our constituents' opinions on this, having them go through the hall and then being able to, at the end of that whole process, ask them quite openly what they think the conflict should be called. I think that's quite appropriate, and something that I'd like to, try and stress or push for as part of this, making sure that we have absolutely everybody who wants to have their opinion heard, have that opinion.
Yeah, I agree with Mike, getting people, there needs to be balance of what's practical to get people through the complex so that people have seen it for themselves, but also using some of those other things in terms of visuals or video that could be used for people because they will be limited. We have to think about what's going to actually be possible, how many people we're going to get through, but we need to think about how we can get those messages to as many people as possible to see what's there. So I think those visuals, mixed media, high-res images, 30-second video type ideas are really important as well. Alongside of that, let's get people through it. Yeah.
Totally agree with what Mike's saying. I think the more people that see it, they have better understanding what's actually on offer and available, and it will help guide their thoughts.
Yeah. So as far as tour through the building opportunities, what do we have? What's our opportunities based on? Because we did the building side of that.
It is. So we need to work with the regional manager and Mayor Love and just see what we can do.
Yeah. And even if we could schedule a couple, or whatever we could fit in, schedule them on something up for the public to talk, and then back that up with a video. And even if it is for like a 30-second video max, so we don't lose interest. And I know the board's got also a really good video you put out before Christmas, so that's a long story that we can also layer in there as well. And maybe a shorter one that we can use at public presentations and have online as people connect with it.
For something, I think like a consultation period, however long that we decide that needs to be, that should be the time that we open this up for people to book public tours. But I also think we should go to the next level of targeting certain community groups within Cromwell, in particular, who would and inviting them along for some more sort of exclusive tour. I think doing that at school, the high school, I think was incredibly building would be standing long after all of us are pushing up daisies. So I think that's quite important. And I also think there's a whole lot of community groups in here that we should give the opportunity to run a tour for, rather than just having individuals. You know, individuals should be able to book a public tour, but also we should target community groups as well.
Can I ask a question?
Mhm.
I'm looking back on some of the notes that I've made at the time, and I also, at the time this was discussed, and I noticed that in the on the agenda for the meeting later this afternoon, it says that back in August it was recommended that staff go out to the community for the feedback on the name. I don't know whether that has been done. It also says that in November it was requested that the local community groups and schools be approached. Has that happened at all, or is that something that's?
There's certainly been a lot of community groups who have gone through the build.
Yeah.
And some of that is them approaching, but some of it is also being approached by the council team to say, hey, come and have a look at this. So, but going out for I think that in August, that we will need to go out for consultation. The consultation timeframe is now being set as being in March.
Well, I had taken prefects from college through before school started to start that talk, even junior teaching as well, to get the engagement from the students from the college. So from today, how today unfolds, what we can take back to the school to ask the question of all students here. And
Yeah.
get the impact. So it was for the students I took that they're in awe. So planning for impressed and formals and discussions, so they were really impressed.
Well, I can understand that, but
Yeah.
you know, it's a question now of how you get that feedback from them, isn't it?
Yeah, but it's how we presented it, and you know, we're
Yeah.
ranging from 10 years old to 18 current. So.
Yeah.
So once we get the promotion and the propaganda out of the way for our new hall, what platforms are going to be used to get the feedback from the community on the naming of it?
Yeah, well, that's some of what we need to talk about today is how we're going to do that. So, and what those platforms look like. Obviously, the council has a platform, which is the Let's Talk platform, which is used for consultation and feedback. What we need to do is to try and get it wider than the people who are already engaged and going in there to go, how do we get, we need to go to them, and we need to take those opportunities to people as well. So we just think that will be part of what we're talking about in the scope of today, is thinking, how do we actually get people engaged and filling in the form? What platforms are we using to engage people? So we know that all different social media platforms all have a different audience and all have a different demographic that use them. And so we probably need to look wider than our regular.
And I hope we put this information out as education rather than propaganda, and I think it's just giving a story of what, because people haven't seen inside the building, and how do we help people understand what it is and they can't see. So if we can give enough information about future use, how it's going to be designed, then people, that's freedom rate, that's what they think. That's the goal, is the education piece. And this, when we talk about what we were envisaging, there's no more than 10 minutes of it, because it's going to be a high level. This is what it is, this is where it's going to be, this is going, so then we can on be that activity. You're not trying to pull the ocean, just want to be clear that people have the information before they do understanding. And one thing I didn't mention was around the today I made, another important part of this education, because I believe is explaining that what that means, what does it mean we get to the name, and just clarifying that in the community too. So yes, we're not chat about that, it's just being clear about process and the significance of structure. So the design, if there's any other engagement pieces or education pieces that we think should be included in the
Can I just, is there a way of in that making sure we can show pieces that we've recycled or reused or reinvented?
That's
Would be really good to say, this is what's like for like out of the old one. This is what the new version of that is. And then we've got a whole piece of what's extra then.
Yeah.
So like we're all very aware that this is a rebuild to a lot of people, but it's also not. So what is actually rebuilt? What is extra? How they work together, and whether we've improved, or like on the wall we've got the old flooring. I think that's actually really important for the people with the history links to it, to see that we have honoured that old building. We didn't just knock it down and build something new and it's completely irrelevant. So pointing out where they are and the significance, and that would be really cool. Get that in there.
Second part of that's there, the, what that old hall offered compared to the new
Yeah.
room setup. So, things like that.
Yeah, so the extra, and that's not like we can, the like for like,
Yeah.
whether it's an activity, the room, the material, the
Yeah.
cenotaph, but also how that's incorporated into the new, whether it is still like for like, whether it is a hall, a memorial, or whatever, or if not, what we're trying to achieve with what it's become and how those parts are incorporated in.
Let's Talk is behind a username and login as well, isn't it? So that's obviously a massive barrier to a lot of
Don't
people.
have to, it doesn't.
You don't have to? Okay, great.
When we get to the site, go through that, because we want to make sure it works for.
Yeah, it needs to be accessible and
Yeah.
that's, yeah.
It's,
Absolutely.
and nobody solves the product through, I know they're looking for it.
Yeah, that's always good as well.
Yeah,
How do you see that, Sarah? Like a simple one-page checkbox, something that's easily digestible?
I think we, like displaying the rooms and the layout, just it's almost a side piece of that really, that, you know, hey, this is the RSA room.
Yeah.
But the cladding on the wall is actually the recycled flooring, because it was really important, because that was return services people that came in and laid that floor, and
Cool.
you know, there's a real emotional attachment to anything like that, that we have. For us, it was really significant when we were making those decisions on, do we want to spend a bit more time and money to reclaim that floor and use it? For me, that's a really important part of what we did. And if people don't know that, it's not as relevant. So it'd be nice to make sure, and with the memorial outside, where the cenotaph is, how we've done it.
Yeah.
Our thoughts behind that, what it was there, and improved what was there. But our thought process for people to make that decision on whether it is an improvement, not us telling them it is.
Yeah.
So we show them what was there. And it is a lot for that. Put a photo up of, this is what the cenotaph looked like in an Anzac Day.
Yeah.
And this is our envisioning of a new, improved, bigger, better. I think that would be quite nice to be able to see that.
Thank you.
And actually, it brings us another point around the different spaces within the facility. As far as the education piece and what we can, is the information that the board would like to share around things like the common memorial gardens that has already been named and Lockton, and some other spaces, but I guess things like the cinema and the cafe, how they are going to be named for straight name. Do you want that information shared in this process too, to give a backstory, or is it too soon?
Overarching is probably sensible, because we are talking that there are commercial spaces that a name will go with a commercial lease.
Mhm.
And that's part of the course of business. So that's, you know, there are some things that by our choice of leasing those, their name is then out of our hands to a degree.
Mhm.
And then there are spaces that, as a community, we have the opportunity to sell, and a comfort level on how much of that we give the community input on, or how much we do go out and commercialise, or is it just crumbles and we don't name it because we want to keep it to ourselves? Are we happy to name it? Like, getting a feel for that would be quite useful, I think.
Actually, just picking up on the RSA side of things, I understand that the cenotaph and the memorial garden area will be open for Anzac Day. Is that correct?
that's what we've heard at this point, yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm working so hard right now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Get
this,
prepared.
You certainly
Yeah.
are.
yes, and the cenotaph is back in place, so that is,
Yeah.
that's amazing, yeah, yeah. Well, not back in place, it's in its new location, which is, that must have been a nerve-wracking
Yeah.
for the guys that would with big machines taking something so precious, yeah.
They're biting me.
I know the RSA will face
Yeah.
yeah.
And I think as well for Anzac, it obviously won't be perfect, but the guys getting it good enough for Anzac Day will be there this year, which is quite.
It's just so
Yeah.
positive.
Yeah.
So now we get into that engagement design considerations. So this is sort of where like how from. So we talked really about this tight time frame. And I was trying to make sure we do a proper job within the time we've got, and what we get a one shot at this. We want to make sure we've got enough time to do it right. Some of the things that the three of us have been discussing is how do we get this in front of people? So this relates to common and it relates to Teaching Target District. So how do we hear from those voices? And having all the groups going to people when they're in a meeting anyway, when they're in a gathering anyway, it's a lot easier than asking them to come. Especially outside of Cromwell, where people may not think of relevance directly to you, being able to go to meetings. So the time frame is important for that because even for stakeholder meetings, they're not going to be on a monthly rotation. So that's the challenge if we go on a 2 week, that we miss that opportunity to hit those cycles. And then if we go to a 4 week meeting, then we're running it Mondays because then we run into board meetings and council meetings. So it's either presenting things in an April cycle or in a May cycle, basically. And that's the difference. We go for it, we get squeezed in a 2 week and we'll get the April one, or we make it a 4 week and we'll get a May.
We wanted it quite soon.
We do, but 2 weeks does sound like a very, very tight time frame, doesn't it? And it does make you concerned that we're going to miss some,
Pre-engagement's key to that though. I think
Yeah.
2 weeks, I get an email that says, can you fill this in? And your school usually, and I'm like, which doesn't need it 2 weeks late.
you often don't get 2 weeks, you might get a day and a half, yeah.
But my reminder pops up at 10 PM the night before it's due, and I'm like, got to do it.
Yeah.
To a degree, that's the same, I think. If you know it's coming and we are, if it pops up for the first time and people have to go out and find this information, that's different. If we are front foot in this and saying, here is everything you can possibly want, tell us if you want more, come and have a tour, do everything, and the consultation is at the end of that, that's quite different. So the period itself, this lead-in needs to be intense and out there and giving everybody what they want, giving everybody the opportunity to come to us and ask for that. So when we do actually say, hey, can you please now fill in a couple of questions and tell us where you think they've done all of that, and you're not going to find out the answer, you know it, and you're like, oh yeah, cool, I can fill in the form now, so no. I think they're quite different. So we need to make sure 2 weeks is fine if we really load that front end of the pre-engagement.
And it is getting in front of, particularly outside of the Cromwell area,
Yeah.
getting in front of communities who aren't necessarily plugged into this and have to start from step one. What are we talking about? What is the building?
Yeah.
And how would we engage interested people to do that initially? Yeah. If we consider that may not be that easy just to say, here's the survey, do it. Keep you telling people about that.
Is it something we can involve the other community boards in, like maybe the community board brings the opinion of the different communities to this process, rather than doing it, I don't know, like, I mean, obviously everyone's put out the survey, but is that something that we can involve those community boards in a lot more to canvass those community opinions?
We absolutely could, if that's what.
Yeah.
That's
Community board chairs are meeting, this evening with Tamer as well. That's certainly something that I can raise within that meeting is what the role of the boards might be to bring to help get this out to their communities.
Yeah, because we've got a bit of a competing sort of thing going on there where this was funded by Cromwell Endowment Man, but then the operational costs will be covered by all ratepayers, right? So I think it is important that we engage with the other community boards to get their opinions or their lack of on what this should be called.
Yes. Having said that, I mean, I read somewhere that the decision is actually going to be taken by this community board, the Cromwell Community Board. Is that correct?
We don't make decisions, Bob, as you know. We can make recommendations. So we will be coming together to make a recommendation.
Yeah.
And, you know, it will be interesting to see what the rest of the community wants to see, but I would say that we're highly likely to get the most engagement out of the Cromwell community anyway, in terms of who's likely to put their, sign the piece of paper and put a form in.
The reason I'm asking that question really is because obviously that sets the time frame, doesn't it? The fact that it's going to be considered and recommended by the community board, so it's got to actually, sort of fit in with the timetable of the community board.
Mhm.
So we're talking about end of April.
That's what Paul was talking about for us to meet the April meeting for the community board. It would be a 2 week consultation, and so it was the May meeting would be this week.
Right.
That's our whole answer.
I don't know if you call that.
We can't pick it up myself, but.
So when is the April meeting, Lena?
April meeting for the community board is the 7th of April and after the 9th of April. And then the the May meetings would be the 5th of May for the community forum and the 27th of May for the
There's that lag time between our meetings, we're now meeting on a monthly cycle, but there needs to be lag time so that anything that comes out of community board meetings can then be included in council papers. So we just need to make sure that we're.
And Jen, what is the realistic amount of time that you need between a confirmation of the name and the opening of this facility? What is the?
It's a very good question.
Karen, did you have something you wish to add to that?
So there's also construction element to this. So we've got to mount the name and all that other stuff. So these are the things that we've got to start thinking about a lot for this tight time frame. Because of the fact that we start commissioning sort of April.
Signage and
And we don't want it to be bringing in more construction crew just put up a name. Like to get.
that's a cost.
Some sort of about.
Sarah's right though, isn't she? I mean, if you do pre-engagement, would actually help that. I mean, really, the consultation period starts now, doesn't it?
Well, it is starting now because people are thinking about it now and talking about it now and interested in it now. So you're absolutely right. We just haven't got all the package there for people to engage with yet, other than us and the fact that there is a facility at the lake being built.
It's not actually the village.
Oh, it's on break.
Lean on the actual.
It's not like, so.
I'm really leaning towards short, and we get it done, we move on and we get excited about the opening and go from there.
Okay.
Yeah, personally.
Public engagement sessions. So we talked about having tours, facility tours. Are people sort of doing drop-ins? Do you want, we've talked about stakeholder meetings, and I really would encourage that, and even obviously you're all involved in your own groups and networks. And so if we can get you the information, you can go out to those, stakeholder groups and talk to them, that'd be amazing. If you've got people who want to, that'd be amazing. If you people that you want staff to go and talk to, yes, no, what do you want?
I think that the notion of us, the groups that we already liaise with and that we, whose meetings that we go to, if we've got the information package there and can set ourselves up to do a presentation at those meetings, that would be fantastic. And I know that we've all got groups that we're engaged with, and that's probably where we need our councillors and our wider community board people and people from different wards to go, yeah, I go to these people. I could take that presentation with me to that, would be really, really helpful, because we want it to be wide. We want to capture different things, but I think we also need to think about some groups that we might not already capture and who they might be if people have got the capacity to do that. I'm well aware that we've got the majority of people sitting around this table are also in full-time employment, and so we've got to find a balance between us being able to give up, take time from those things to engage in this because it's important, but also what's realistic for people to be able to engage in during the day. In particular, evening meetings are probably a bit easier for people to get to. So where staff might need to be at drop-in sessions and elected members going to community meetings there. And maybe trying to make sure that we've got our elected members rostered into some of those drop-in sessions and stuff, so that there's try and get as many of those sorts of things where there's at least one of us present to answer those questions from an elected member's point of view, and for us to be able to hear what people are saying and thinking before we come back around the decision-making table. I think it's really important. So, yeah, I think that there's going to be a little bit of timetabling having to go on in terms of what's going to fit for everybody in that space.
The two groups that I think I'd really like to hear from, and probably this is something that your team would be, through economic development, the businesses of Cromwell and Central Otago. I think the people who are leading businesses, we need to actually canvass what they think is the right sort of their opinion, and also deal with tourism, because tourism is going to play a massive role in making sure this is economically successful.
Tracy, what did you want to add to that?
Yeah, I think, just thinking of opportunity, thinking 100% needs to be all elected members.
Yeah,
To be sitting in this chair. And I guess for the three more rural areas, you've got an opportunity with just about within that. You would actually fit within that 2 weeks at the 3 AMP shows that are captured.
oh,
And so you've got the Central Otago on the 14th, then you've got the Manutoro on the Wednesday, and then you've got Mount Ninja on the following Saturday.
It's hugely valuable.
Yeah, so
that's
that's
great
three,
information, yeah,
that's quite a big stretch of people to cover.
Yeah.
And I know that the team are going to be at Central Otago, I can't talk for
They're
other,
gonna
there you
be-
go, so we'll have, there's going to
there'll
be.
be people on the ground then. Oh, that's a
So
big
that
opportunity, yeah.
giving.
At the pack, that's the most, gonna be the most important thing, isn't
Would
it?
be
Yeah,
great to have.
Yeah.
So it's not-
yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Tracy.
Yeah. Well, there's certainly have information, some information we need. Then you can say the food.
That's been close.
Yes, we know it's quite close. We're aware we're putting pressure on people, but we've had pressure put on us. You saw Gareth stand up. When we'd like to be commissioning signs, so.
We have the business breakfast network. Is there, if you think of any other business.
Yeah, I think between Nick and Dylan, we can really land on with those community.
Yeah, and making sure that we've contacted those people who run those meetings to make sure there's a speaking slot in there.
And again, the little bit may miss speaking slots because it's a marketing cycle. So
Yeah.
if there's other ways they can send it out, an additional form, it'll be
Yeah.
more filling on.
Yeah, absolutely. Quite a lot of them are early in the month, though, aren't they, those? You know, our ones is first Wednesday of the month.
Oh, it's not
Yeah.
helpful.
And you're right, it's being a video star now too. so
Yes, we've all had
people-
practice of being video stars.
Yeah.
Super helpful for our because there's a more information.
Yeah, so I suppose it's thinking about what are those groups that we don't necessarily have a liaison person in that would be really important for us to connect with. Or, and there'll be people around this table who know who they are. Do we need to give a steer to some of that, like Tracy has with the AMP shows, or?
It would be really helpful if you just email us, groups that you're thinking of, when we can make a long list. Doesn't mean we'll be able to achieve them all, but it gives us a starting point and we know it's only 2 weeks, so I think we just need to be realistic, we'll do what we can.
Yeah, I think that's where we need to make sure that people can make, we know it's a 2 week cycle as well, then for elected members to be able to say, I'll be spending all my lunch breaks. We're having them from 3 to 4. I'll be here. Or whatever it looks like.
Nobody can hear the violins.
Having made some key decisions today, are you guys comfortable with us communicating that informally before a formal package? For example, formal collective happens maybe today at 1, and I might be able to go, and they won't meet again until this process is over. So there's community groups, and there was a young families group that met yesterday. So the meetings are happening.
So do they have a monthly one though? Because we should still be able to hit them in that March frame if there's another month.
There's not monthly.
Okay.
The Alexandra one is, but there's lots of groups like that staff, Rebecca and I and others attend. So I guess if we can get some high level sort of bullet points out of
Yeah.
the workshop today, then at least we can sort of go out and say, these are the dates. This is sort of the concept of what we're doing, even if we don't have a visual and anything written. That would be handy.
Super. I mean, hopefully we can find the link to the video that was made at the end of last year, at least as a walkthrough type video. And there are, of course, the great 3D renderings.
I mean, this is also a public meeting.
Just,
We
yeah.
can make these bullet points, so. people
Yeah,
can
so
get there
absolutely.
anyway, so go hard.
Yeah. And I think that goes with that whole, there's a 2 week period when the survey is actually open and we're taking submissions, then the front footing before that is important as well to get people knowing it's coming up. Yeah.
And we do need a timetable too, don't we, when these
Absolutely.
events are gonna happen? So that we can actually convey that to all the groups that we're involved with.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
A time frame of the 2 weeks is something that we'll need to make a decision on today.
Yeah.
And on that, so the drop-ins, if there's something that the board is interested in doing, would there be demand if we if we were to host it, like through our drop in and a lunch hour, do you think it's a turn up?
I prefer to see, sorry, yeah,
No problem.
I was gonna say, I prefer to see, well, the drop-ins and the tour. I'm envisaging would be almost the same thing, right? Like you drop into a public tour of the facility, go around, have a look at it. Be able to
So
show
for
you-
people who aren't able to fit into the tours, other public drop-ins where they might be held in our library spaces or
I see.
another space where there's a video playing and people can come in and there's somebody there to answer their questions.
Is there any appetite to have a public meeting?
Oof.
It's a good question, and so if we sort of play that through on what, first of all, would people come? So that's the first question, and the second would be, how long would it be? So if something about the education piece, if we were going to spend 10 minutes developing an education piece. In what, like what?
What's the, yeah.
What's the purpose of the
How would you
meeting?
fill
Not a
up,
meeting, is it?
an hours long public meeting if you've
Yeah.
got a 10-minute presentation? I think that, yeah, what's the purpose of having a big group of people in a hall rather than people being able to ask questions individually?
My question really was, is there any appetite to do it? Because I'm not too sure that it would be a sensible idea.
I think
Yeah.
if you're going to do a session, the big thing around here is availability. So a lunchtime one is probably quite tone deaf for us to say. Time of day. So we're trying to make it available. Let's make it available. Make 2 is probably enough, and do an evening and do a weekend during the day. And it doesn't have to be hugely lengthy or anything, but give people the opportunity. So the tours might not work, but they can come in an evening or they can come.
The
in
drop-in
daytime.
sessions that was held at McNulty House,
They were good.
they were really good.
Yeah.
Before construction started and we were looking at plans and
Yeah.
they worked really well. And I think we had a lot of people who went through those sessions, so
Can I ask why the drop-in just wouldn't be at the facility itself?
because it's a building site.
Right.
Yeah,
Would
so
there
it's gotta be,
safe
they've
space
gotta have
there?
all those, so you would, those people doing tours would get all that drop-in information anyway, wouldn't they?
Yeah.
Plus they'd get to go and walk through it.
And
They,
would
they
there be
get
a
double
safe
bonus.
space anywhere where it's if they can do it?
Oh, yeah,
Yes, right next door.
Yep.
If it was available.
if it's available.
Check with them.
It's always still open for their members. Yeah. And there's certainly a group that we want to, you know, go and talk to as well.
So just something to think about as well, it's a drop-in, it's sort of instead of, I guess, the tour. So it's having it maybe up in the town centre area could pick up people who are working in town who can't get down to the forefront. Like, so there's that that's considered as well, it would be serving a different sector of the community, who can't do that right now.
And certainly in our other wards, so a drop-in in Ranfurly and in Alexandra and in Clyde and in Roxburgh would be, those people are least likely to come through Cromwell for a meeting.
If they're expecting like 2 drop-ins in Cromwell and potentially drop-ins up around the region.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll check it out, it might be hard to achieve.
Or one regional drop-in for an Alexandra.
The other places,
Could the drop-ins be at the AMP shows? Would that be?
well, they will be like a drop-in at the AP shows, yeah, yeah.
The year that's changed. It's a ticketed event.
Possible.
So,
Yeah.
let's go free.
What days?
Some of us are very grateful for that.
Romantic outing for all of us. Awesome.
And the one fun thing there is school participation. So we know that Cromwell College, thank you, have already started this journey. We see schools have been really important, and I guess we're thinking high school because of the age and getting that feedback and being involved in the name. And we're considering all 4 schools, but it's just how we can reach into those schools and get them engaged, because we do spend a lot of time trying to get into schools, and it depends on the topic and it depends on who's interested in staff. And so there's a few factors that make it like it can be a school newsletter or it can be a classroom opportunity, but it depends on who can drive it really.
The engagement there is not a newsletter. no kid is going to read a newsletter, no teacher's going to read a newsletter to the kids, and unless it's on your doorstep, they won't care enough to take that into their classroom realistically. I think going along that, the short, sharp video, make it interesting enough at that level, you know, like not just this is the hall and these are all the rooms, like hit the buttons that are actually going to spark their interest enough to care about it. You know, Taylor Swift is going to be singing here in 2027. What do you think we should call it? You get lots of opinions. A TikTok video might work, whatever it is that should be fit.
That was a question we asked the prefect when we went through.
How to get,
Yeah.
raise enough
What
interest.
would you like to see
Ah,
on
yeah,
stage?
awesome. Yeah, but that's how, yeah, but it's a completely different question line, isn't it, for the kids? Like what we're trying to achieve there, it's not as pertinent with the history or anything for them, but so explaining things like this is a historical site, they might not know that this is a historical site,
yeah.
that this is what was here is significant to a different generation, like laying that is quite important, because we're all coming at this, and a lot of the feedback is going to be people that have got an opinion because of XYZ. The kids won't necessarily have that, but we do need to make sure they understand.
Yeah, they need
Where
to
that-
understand the struggles.
Rebecca, what
Yeah.
is the, because I was, and I'm not involved in any way with school administration, so my thoughts were that we would bus a whole bunch of kids down and take them on some sort of Cromwell college. Is that unrealistic? That
They
that
would.
happen?
Carlton's good at
Depending on timetable. They've got academic focus week coming out, so look, it's not, don't rule it out, and it's.
How about the other side of that, where the prefects go through, if they also do a video?
Yeah. Absolutely, I took 3 of them, and then it was capturing engagement from the junior part of the school as well, so to the junior teachers meeting.
There's no reason you couldn't get like those prefects that have already had that. Let's make a short, sharp TikTok or whatever it is. And then that goes to the leadership teams on the other schools. And I don't know, is there any kind of who there between the schools in the region, or is there anything? Because if not, let's start it.
Secondary schools do have their own little association.
So they? Well, there you go. Taking it under
should be
that
able
level.
to access the other.
And all of those high schools out
There
there
is
is
the
one
Secretary
under.
Principals Association as well, but the secondaries aren't actively involved in that.
But all schools will have a one or a final time or something.
Yeah.
And again, it's a prep it enough, give them a really short lead time. Here's a wee survey, this is video, but do you have an opinion? If you do fill this in and it's on one day, and if they're going to do it, they're going to do it. And if they're not, we're not going to sit there 2 weeks and go, I wonder if anybody else is going to fill it in. Let's be realistic.
But certainly to get the demographic of our parent communities who hitting school newsletters and putting the drop-ins, you know, timings of when and where and how, as you always do, for those sorts of things, to send those off to be put in school newsletters around the district.
So it's really great having Rebecca involved in formal colleges. It's very hard to start to get cut through into our group and stuff. So just have to be clear that we can make inquiries, but there's no guarantee we can get there. So if anybody has any directs in, that would be amazing.
Yeah, but I think to be able to, you know, if it comes from the college office to those other school offices, even to say, hey, our kids have produced this, you might want to get behind it. Yeah.
Yeah, that would be huge, because, from student to student, and those students will know what appeals, whereas it's a struggle for our team to produce things that are appropriate for that age group, and they don't just go on at this. We don't know anything. So formal students really take the leadership role here, the other schools in the district, and say, you know, we've had a look at it, and we think it's really cool, and this is what we think you'll find interesting too. You'll be able to pick that out much better as people look at it.
And to be able to frame it in a way that they appreciate what it's going to say.
They understand the language.
Yeah, but they speak the same
Yeah.
language.
Is it skivvy or is it res? We don't know.
We don't know.
And what's the point in asking that? in the survey?
So we've touched on this a wee bit already, but who's the fronting of this engagement? Just what your advice, how do you want to run this? Do you, as elected members, want to front this? Do you want staff to do what works?
I think as elected members, we would love to front it. I think that there'll be some limitations to the ability for us to front everything, but
Well, will we have copies of this 10-minute video available for, to take to group?
Being out in the community, so.
The only one I'm not good at connecting with is my good lady wife.
Well, yeah, okay, go together.
So, the next thing I want to talk about is survey design. Clearly, then we can have two options, so the what's closed. For those. Gives you a bit more scope to, I guess, take themes and work out your main theme, but protections can be seen as narrowing people's thinking. But a naming of a whole, maybe that's a practical solution. So they're just two options to think about and how you want to receive your information and what for your time frame. There's a lot of leeway around the name for this facilities. So we thought we could maybe manage something that's a bit more constrained that would work for this through to older people, but you find something that's stronger you.
If we leave it open and we say, what do you think this place should be called? You're going to get, let's say, 2,000 submissions, and everyone is going to be ever so slightly different along a theme. And the practicality of then spreadsheets and reading, summarising, everything is lost a little bit. So I think quite a tight direction with scope for it, or you always need an other.
Yeah, always
But,
need to allow people to open.
Yeah, we always need the other, and possibly we need a, do you have any comments? And then that's where the heavy lifting is in the reading for us to go through and pick out. So everybody has the opportunity to put in their thought, because there are a lot of people that do have that specific thought. But I think for the majority, for us to work with something, it would be good to have an idea of what we're naming. Are we asking people to give us a whole title which encompasses everything, the place, what it is? Or are we asking people to consider because you might think it's the Cromwell Memorial Hall, and somebody else might think it's the Cromwell Memorial Centre. So 2/3 of that matches up. So then you're aggregating your likes and your dislikes better. So whatever we're asking has got to be able to be compared like for like. And those closed questions, if you say like, where should it be? What should we call the first part of it is Cromwell, Central Lake, Central Otago, Central District, and it's a radio tick one or the other. And then the last option is always other, and you can give us your feedback. And we've immediately gone to, say, 5 options for the location, and we'll get a good feel then for, do people think it should be Cromwell? And then if we've got the survey information there to tell us where they're from, we can cross-locate them to say, okay, all the people in Cromwell want to call it Cromwell, all the people in Alex want to call it Central Otago. That will give us a steering, because there's no point having information without that background. And again, that skews it. If 500 people in Cromwell, like as with the race course, we saw a copy and paste of the same thing 500 times. We need to be really careful not to allow this to be skewed. So if we have that information, that's much better knowledge over the how and the why. But I think breaking up, giving people what do you think it should be called, Cromwell Memorial Hall, is too broad. So breaking it into those components would be really good to see where the measure is for more people, if that makes sense. So is it a complex, a hub, a centre, a hall, another?
Basically 3 or 4 silos where you could take your pick of.
Yes, and it's like one of those little Build-A-Bear things, isn't it? You know, you pick the feet, pick the middle, you pick the head, they don't all have to match. We'll get to that, that's in way.
Location, addictive now.
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
But yeah, but location, what are the key, for us, it's probably, what are the key components of the name that we want direction on? And it's actually quite a short survey.
Do we have a tool that can do that, Paula, the spinning page?
I'd really like.
You can't demand it.
It's Lollyton. But that, in my mind, would make that, those three,
Yeah.
two. and
Alongside of
where,
that, what you've got in your bullet points there, the names that are already allocated to some of those rooms and spaces, so we know that we've got that agreement, that we've got the Cromwell War Memorial Gardens, which is great, and I'm sure that when we come to naming the RSA room, it might get called the RSA room by everybody, but it's highly likely to be the Cromwell RSA Memorial Rooms, or something of that nature, so that it's got a very much an identity that links it to that memorial purpose. So knowing that we've already got some of those names, and then, yeah, thinking, is it Cromwell Central Show, Central Lakes? Is it Memorial? Is it Convention? Is it, and then is it Centre?
it's the place, it's the activity,
yeah,
and it's the scope of the complex hub, centre, whatever, but.
Clear from Bob?
No, I'm just listening to that and saying that all sounds very sensible to me.
Yeah, and then you get a real steer. I mean, you might get every single person with the same, you know, with a very close iteration of what you cut. But again, you're also going to get what's the other, and you're always going to put in a box at the end, aren't you? Do you have any other comments or suggestions? So there you've got a lot of rich data that comes from those bits.
I think the other thing you've got to realise is that there's, you know, a certain group of people who are always going to call it the hall.
Yeah.
Regardless, it's always going to be the hall.
And we know that with any other facility around the country that has been named anything, the Cape Tin is called the Cape Tin.
Yeah.
You know, whatever the Wellington City Council wanted to call it, it's always going to be the Cape Tin. And that's how that is, isn't it? So, yeah. Yeah.
And one other thing on survey design, just quickly, we just touched before about on next walk, everyone else surveys, but obviously be online surveys and hard copy. Next walk, there is an option to do a registration, and the advantage of a registration is that you've got that demographic information that you can see who has responded, and you don't, it does do some safeguarding against multiple submissions by one person. So that's an option. Another option is to not register. So then it's more of a free for all. People who fill it in, they're anonymous. We could also layer, but not registering, but put in a couple of demographic questions that might help in the decision making. And it could be like where do you live? Something.
I think we just need to have postcode or whatever, and then at least something like that, because we do want to know what the different wards are thinking. Yeah.
Area and age would be good as well. I think, or age bracket
Yeah.
of, I don't know how.
It would be good at the end of it, whatever name is decided upon, that we're able to be transparent with the data that comes out and be like, well, here's what the community actually said at the time. I think that would be super important. So age breakdown, probably gender breakdown, probably.
God, there's a lot of boxes.
Yeah, but there's a few different options that we can have, because otherwise people are going to say, well, you guys should make this up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what I'm hearing is no registration, but we front load with some.
And with the amount of stuff that the IT team and CDOs DC makes us do, I'm pretty certain they can figure out how to prevent duplicate entries from the same person.
But the age would be good to have that, like if we get 90% of our respondents say memorial must be in there, but also 90% of our respondents are in the 55 plus bracket, 60 plus or whatever we go, like they correlate and gives us a reason for things. Like data is only as powerful as the questions you've asked, isn't it? There's no good asking a question and saying, oh, do you think these people are all of the same demographic or not? We need to be able to know that we have covered that our survey's done it, or if we are skewing it, that we can weight it.
One thing to know about age and gender is in our normal registration process, it's optional. Those two questions.
I think they still have to be optional. People don't necessarily.
Yeah, gender's not so, but age would be, age would be fairly pertinent to your of reasoning, I think, and it would be great to know if we have got, there's nothing worse than having something vilified because, we did a student survey and like, we've done consultation before and we've been really proud of the student engagement, and then the other end of the spectrum have said, but it's all 15-year-olds filling it in, it doesn't matter. The more data we've got there, the more it informs where those decisions have come from.
Does postcode actually break it down to, the right sort of areas? Or
But we can just ask for ward, we can just say.
Or out of those.
That's the easiest.
So that means you're gonna go with suggestion boxes rather than option 1 or 2 preferred, otherwise.
For the survey questions, that's you guys, but I mean, I think what Sarah outlined was quite having the options.
There will always be a place to put your own to put a suggestion in.
Yeah.
You're not going to be tied to
Yeah.
as the only options, So like something fabulous out there that we haven't thought of.
With the option of other, it'd be good to have a prompt for a reasoning as well, because people could put down another option, and to them it's completely self-explanatory. But we might need some words behind it. Yeah.
Just on your duplicate thing, you can do a fair bit of work on reducing duplicates, but for example, if we're on the one IP address in here right now communicating, it'll come through as that one IP address, and so.
So they can still do it, like MAC addresses and all sorts of things, like.
Yeah.
These guys, with the amount of stuff they're making us do with this training and cleaning on top of these things. So I would suggest that it's entirely possible. I just have to do some work, because they're hounding us for our security training.
Part of the skew is that we saw with the race courses of the same statement was made by probably 50 racecourse users of a certain demographic, and some were high-end users, some were not, but the same comments were coming through. And then when we looked at face value, we're like, it's 50 people that think it should be this. Then when you actually look at it, it's because everybody in that little organisation who thought it was really important, and will say to every one of their members, like, you're not coming to that, and they all bought their own computer, and they all did it separately. But we've got to be aware of both of those. Like, we're just trying to get the honest, raw data out of it, not.
I mean, there's no anonymous submissions there, right? So we can kind of peer this to real people, what the response is.
We repeat hard copy versions with no names on them.
Yeah. Just watch them write it.
And so the last piece, the last one would be the role and purpose of the English title. Just to sort of help when you're doing the survey, to getting a picture of what you're putting in and what is the role of that title. This is the team, but what do you want this to do? I mean, you want it to, it's going to be a wayfinding tool. It's got to explain what's in that facility. We want it to be easy to remember. We want it to be marketable to that audience that we want to reach. It's got to last the test of time, and it needs to be inclusive. So I just thought as an option we could have that as a prompt for them on the survey. Is that what you're after as a board? Is that what you want your English name?
The one that's missing from there is historical significance, which obviously a lot of people in the community are very, very passionate about.
It would also be good to say that the English title is not a translation of the Te Reo at any point, like they are completely separate entities.
I think it's critical that that sort of positioning is put in front of the survey, because it's, to be honest, it's not something people probably thought of in a wider context necessarily.
The blurbing at the top needs to blurb.
I mean, ultimately, these roles and purposes align with different community members' beliefs, which ultimately they all have got their key purposes. So, they'll know what it is, probably go into writing the response.
And that's what we've kind of like to get. You get a scattering of all the different things that people are thinking and how it relates to them and how they see their facility.
Something else I'm conscious of in the back of my mind, it's got to be an appropriate acronym as well. You don't want to be a nasty byproducts.
No. But yeah, hopefully we'll do some sense checking of that.
Central Otago Community Centre, Wally? You don't want Central Otago Community Centre?
Sleepy imagination on that.
Is there anything else there for the list that you'd like to discuss?
I think it's important to keep it simple.
Yeah,
Overall, keep it simple. Not to undersell what we're doing, but like, that's why in my mind, I've gone down that track of naming the different parts of that, because I think asking people to name the hall is really simple, but we're just gonna get all these different, so breaking
slightly
it down to
different
this.
variations. Exactly.
Yeah. So going with those themes of what and why, and also the what it is, what its function, and the rest of it, I think they're the key to getting this right.
Are there any spaces in the complex that are not named yet? There's obviously, sorry, maybe I'll rephrase that question. We may end up in a situation, obviously, where there's 2 or 3 contenders and it's very hard to distinguish between the two, like the secondary name or the tribute part of the complex.
Certainly the hall part or the auditorium part.
Yeah.
And and like the Excel room, that sort of wedding function type room.
Function space.
Yeah, which we're calling Excel Dance Studio, RSA room.
But is it a function space and an
If you
auditorium?
move from that
Just
really well.
curious to know whether there's a consolation prize here, available for people that might, or certain opinions that might not be the top opinion, but the.
I think maybe asking if there's, I think we talked about that right earlier on in the meeting, is there scope to look at names for other parts of the building?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah,
How would you feel about a name for
yeah.
auditorium and
And there's
function?
knowing that there's probably some commercial names in there as well. Yeah,
Separation of other new names.
yeah.
I'm not sure if we need to consult on every other name for a room, but we could ask a question about a theme for the names for the rooms. Whether it was places or flora, fauna,
Or are they sponsorable? Is there an appetite to go and commercialise them and have a name and sponsor for the auditorium? So for the next 3 years, it's the
They could probably coexist.
Spark Arena or whatever it is.
Thank you for your time on that. We'll knock something to them now, ready for it, we'll report later.
Be back for 2 o'clock.
Yes.
You better run.
Basically, like, we've got a 2-week time frame, and even loading in, this is now what February 4th. So we haven't got a lot of time to do. So collectively, we'll do what we can, make an honest run of it. It won't be as great as what we hope it will be, but we want to make it anyone and pragmatic as possible.
I think that's an undersell, actually. I think we've done a lot of work. There's a lot of noise, but I think there's been a lot of work to this point, and we're all concentrating on 2 weeks, but it's not 2 weeks. It's 2 weeks that you can fill the survey in, but this is not a 2-week process. This has been years in the discussion.
Yeah.
Front ending this with as much fact as we can, but I think you're underselling that process by saying that, because it is as good. It possibly is even better because we're aware of that. Whatever information we get out of this has got to name this all, and we've got to be comfortable with that. So it has to be something we're comfortable enough that it's going to do that.
Being pragmatic about it is certainly really important.
One of the final questions is people who don't live in this district at the moment, but grew up here, or what are our thoughts on people that are,
Anybody
No
can
longer
fill
in
the
town.
survey, and you just haven't either
you just have
out of
no-
region with a reason, or where, or
How to reach in is an interesting question.
Oh, I'm sure there'll be certain people that will be listening.
Yeah.
We would love to see.
Yeah, cool.
and that can be an option in the board other, can't it? And then you just type in where or why.
We can understand it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just with the information, when you talk about the English toilet, and I think, it wouldn't hurt to have in there about, the gifting of the mariner, because, somebody else might have another suggestion, but it's that gifting versus other great suggestions from the community, and I think that just needs to be clarified for the community.
That's got to be there in that education piece, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Like how that process.
It's really, really important.
Yeah. Yes. No. Yeah. All right.
Well done, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your presentation, and thank you everybody for your discussion. This is a public workshop in that it's being held in public. It's not a public meeting, and that anybody else has speaking rights at the meeting. This is just a decision-making, to guide a decision about what the consultation looks like, not actually about what the name will be. So this is, pardon? Was it about the process? Yeah.
I just wondered about touchscreens going into the licensed supermarkets and places like that you could update it very quickly and it will be available to people.
Yeah, we've talked about touchscreens for like at our drop-ins, but so I'm hoping that we will be able to find some sort of touchscreen method of survey filling in, but having it in the supermarkets and libraries, those are the places that it's likely to be. So hopefully we can find good technology and make that happen. That's certainly what we did at the McNulty House one, wasn't it? We had the touchscreen technology there. Yeah.
Paula, just made it quite a good point. In the first one, the education opportunities, we've got potential regional interest. I think we probably need to look at national, international as we're trying to market this, and Tourism New Zealand will be the first answer team will tell you that we're trying to market this destination people to bring the conference to from overseas. So again, don't undersell that and try and push that out. Any international engagement on that for any tourist board or anything that we can reach out to and say, you know, hey, when you're looking at these kind of things, what would you be looking for? What's your Google search? What do you search for? So we do come up in the searches, because at the end of the day, we need to make enough money with this thing to let it help pay for itself.
Yeah.
That has to be the marketing, the commercialisation of it. It's got to self-fund as best it can. And being aware of that is bigger than Cromwell or the district or anything, isn't it?
Thank you.
Right, thanks, thank you.
Thanks so much. Thank you everybody for your attendance today.
Good times. We'll come to